Are you okay?
I'm okay.
I get them to cry.
You know I can't get out of my head.
I know. Listen.
It just doesn't stop.
Imagine being just 2 years old and knowing deep in your heart that something was different about you. Picture looking in the mirror every single day and feeling like the person staring back wasn't really you. Now imagine having to share that struggle with the entire world while you're still just a kid. This is the story of Jazz Jennings, and behind that bright smile that made her famous, there was so much pain that most people never got to see. Jazz became one of the most well-known transgender teens in America when her family's reality show I Am Jazz started airing in 2015. She was just 14 when millions of people began watching her life unfold on television. Everyone saw the brave girl who fought for her right to use the girls' bathroom at school and play on the girls' soccer team. They saw the confident teenager who wrote books and became an activist for transgender rights. But what they didn't see was the heavy weight of depression, the nights filled with anxiety, and the struggles that would follow her into adulthood. From the very beginning, Jazz knew she was different. Ever since I could form coherent thoughts, I knew I was a girl trapped inside a boy's body. There was never any confusion in my mind. Even as a tiny child, Jazz gravitated toward things that felt right to her. She loved mermaids, which her mother later explained was common among transgender children because mermaids don't have visible gender markers. She wanted to wear dresses and play with dolls. For Jazz, these weren't phases or experiments. They were expressions of who she truly was inside. Her parents, Jeanette and Greg Jennings, found themselves in uncharted territory. They had to make decisions that most parents never face. Should they let their child express themselves as they wanted? How would other people react? What would be best for Jazz in the long run? These weren't easy questions, and there weren't guidebooks to help them navigate this journey. When Jazz was still very young, her family made the decision to support her transition. This meant letting her dress as a girl, use a female name, and live as her authentic self. It also meant facing a world that wasn't always understanding or accepting. The family had to fight just for Jazz to use the girls' restroom at school. They had to argue with sports leagues to let her play on girls' teams. Every step forward felt like a battle. But Jazz seemed to handle it all with grace and maturity that was remarkable for someone so young. She smiled through interviews, spoke confidently about her experiences, and became a symbol of hope for other transgender children and their families. She wrote children's books about being transgender. She gave speeches and appeared on talk shows. To the outside world, Jazz looked like she had everything figured out. The reality was much more complicated. Growing up in the public eye meant that Jazz's most personal struggles were often on display for the world to see. Every awkward teenage moment, every family disagreement, every challenge she faced was captured on camera and broadcast to millions of viewers. The pressure of being a role model while still figuring out her own identity was enormous. As Jazz got older, the challenges became more complex. She had to make decisions about medical treatments that would affect the rest of her life. She faced the typical struggles of being a teenager: dating, friendships, school stress, but with the added complexity of being transgender and famous. Every choice she made was scrutinized not just by her family and friends, but by television audiences and social media followers. One of the biggest challenges came when Jazz was preparing for gender confirmation surgery. This was something she had been looking forward to for years, a procedure that would help align her body with her gender identity. But the surgery came with complications that were both physically and emotionally difficult. During one episode of her show, viewers saw Jazz experience what she described as crazy pain when something went wrong during her recovery. The vulnerability of sharing such intimate medical challenges on television showed just how much pressure Jazz was under to be open about every aspect of her life. The mental health struggles that Jazz faced became more apparent as she entered her late teens and early 20s. After being accepted to Harvard University, She made the difficult decision to defer her enrollment. The pressure of academic expectations, combined with the ongoing challenges of being in the public eye, became overwhelming. That led to binge eating and weight gain of nearly 100 pounds. Jazz was honest about her struggles with depression and anxiety. "I gained weight and more weight and more weight, and now almost 100 pounds. Heavier, here I am today." The young woman who had always appeared so confident and put together was now battling demons that many people face, but few have to confront so publicly. The weight gain wasn't just about food. It was a physical manifestation of the emotional pain Jazz was carrying. "Having all this extra weight, I can't do so many of the things with my body that I used to be able to do," she shared with her audience. This was incredibly difficult for someone who had always been active and athletic. What made Jazz's situation even more challenging was that she couldn't just deal with her problems privately like most people her age. Every struggle, every setback, every moment of vulnerability was documented and discussed by strangers on the internet. The comment sections of articles about her were filled with both support and criticism. Some people praised her bravery and honesty, while others questioned her choices or offered unwanted advice about her life. The pressure of being a representative for the entire transgender community was something that weighed heavily on Jazz. She didn't just have to figure out her own identity and deal with her own problems. She also felt responsible for being a positive example for other transgender youth. This kind of responsibility would be difficult for anyone. But for someone dealing with depression and other mental health challenges, it was almost unbearable. Jazz's family also struggled with how to help her while still maintaining their reality show. They wanted to support their daughter, but they also had commitments to television producers and audiences who expected to see their lives play out on screen. Finding the balance between helping Jazz heal privately and meeting their public obligations was incredibly difficult. Despite all these challenges, Jazz continued to show remarkable resilience. She sought professional help for her mental health struggles and worked with doctors and therapists to address her depression and binge eating disorder. She was open with her fans about her journey, sharing both the setbacks and the progress she was making. The process of losing the weight she had gained became another public journey. Jazz documented her efforts to get healthier, sharing updates with her followers about her progress. "I am Jazz, star." Jazz. Jennings shows off her 70-pound weight loss and celebrates feeling happier and healthier following her binge eating disorder diagnosis. Each milestone in her recovery was shared with the same openness that had characterized her entire public life. What's remarkable about Jazz's story is not just her individual journey, but what it reveals about the challenges faced by transgender youth in general. Jazz had advantages that many transgender young people don't have: supportive parents, access to medical care, financial resources, and a platform to share her story. Yet even with all these advantages, she still struggled with depression, anxiety, and other mental health challenges. Her experiences highlight how important it is for transgender youth to have support systems, access to mental health care, and safe spaces where they can be themselves without judgment. Jazz's struggles also show how harmful it can be when young people are forced to be perfect representatives for entire communities, instead of just being allowed to be imperfect humans who are still figuring things out. The story of Jazz Jennings is ultimately one of courage, but it's not the simple story of courage that people often want to hear. It's not just about a brave young person who overcame all obstacles and lived happily ever after. It's a more complex story about someone who faced incredible challenges, made mistakes, struggled with mental health issues, and had to find ways to heal and grow while the entire world was watching. Jazz's willingness to share her struggles, even the difficult and embarrassing ones, has helped countless other young people who are facing similar challenges. By being honest about her depression, her weight gain, her surgical complications, and her other setbacks, she showed other transgender youth that it's okay to not have everything figured out. She demonstrated that seeking help is a sign of strength, not weakness. Her story also shows the importance of treating transgender individuals as complete human beings rather than just symbols or representatives. Jazz wasn't just a transgender activist. She was also a student, a daughter, a sister, an artist, and a young person trying to figure out who she wanted to be. The pressure to be perfect in any one of these roles would be difficult, but the pressure to be perfect in all of them while dealing with mental health challenges was overwhelming. Today, Jazz continues to work on her health and happiness while still using her platform to advocate for transgender rights. She has shown that recovery and healing are possible, even when the journey is difficult and public. Her story reminds us that behind every public figure, behind every smile we see on television or social media, there might be struggles we don't know about. The lessons from Jazz's story extend beyond the transgender community. Her experiences speak to anyone who has ever felt pressure to be perfect, anyone who has struggled with mental health, anyone who has had to grow up too fast or take on responsibilities that felt too big. Her journey shows that it's possible to be both vulnerable and strong, to struggle and still be an inspiration to others. Jazz Jennings' story is still being written. She's still a young woman with her whole life ahead of her. The challenges she has faced have shaped her, but they don't define her limits or her potential. Her willingness to share both her struggles and her triumphs has made a difference in countless lives, and her continued advocacy work helps create a world where other transgender youth might face fewer obstacles than she did. The smile that made Jazz famous may have hidden pain, but it also represented hope. Hope for acceptance, hope for understanding, hope for a world where transgender young people can be supported and celebrated for who they are. Jazz's story reminds us that real courage isn't about never struggling. It's about being honest about those struggles and continuing to move forward despite them. Her journey from a confident child to a struggling teenager to a young adult working on her recovery shows that healing is possible, growth is continuous, and that sharing our authentic selves, including our imperfections, can be one of the most powerful ways to help others. As we reflect on Jazz Jennings' story, we're reminded that every person's journey is complex and multifaceted. Behind the public personas we see, there are real human beings dealing with real challenges. Jazz's willingness to share her story, in all its complexity, has helped create more understanding and compassion in the world. Her legacy isn't just as a transgender activist, but as someone who showed us all what it means to be genuinely, courageously human. If this story moved you, if Jazz's journey inspired you or helped you understand something new about the transgender experience or about mental health struggles, please hit that like button to let me know. Share this video with someone who might benefit from hearing Jazz's story. And don't forget to subscribe to this channel for more stories about real people facing real challenges with real courage. Your support helps me continue to share these important stories that remind us of our shared humanity. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.